I have been accused of teasing news so far out in advance that by the time the news actually comes out, people are angry at me. They don't even care anymore. And that is sort of my MO. I've been called Tease the Planner in that regard. Well, today, the news I've been teasing for a few weeks about Kristen, I get to share with you. And as part of that, she dressed as Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson today on the show. Hello, Kristen.
Hello.
Black mock turtleneck with a gold chain over the top. Do you have a fanny pack and acid wash jeans?
I should have, because I have both.
Really? Dame, hello.
Hello.
Dame, on paper, you have been the smartest person on the show as it relates to financial planning because of a designation that is behind your name and it has a registered trademark with it. And what is that designation?
First of all, I'm not entirely sure why you couch that with on paper.
But well, no, just on paper.
Just a certified financial planner designation.
Okay, certified financial planner. It is a very, very difficult Herculean task, if you will. How long did it take you to get that designation?
There was education component, which was 11 months. And then there was the prep, which was another couple months. And then it was a day-and-a-half test.
And the prep is different from like a prep for a colonoscopy. Because I hear prep, I'm of a certain age. I think, well, that sounds messy.
It depends on who you talk to. It was not enjoyable.
For further context, I would like to note that I abandoned pursuing the CFP in about 2021 wait, I'm so old. 2001 or 2002. Okay. 22 years ago, I abandoned my pursuit of the certified financial planner designation. Well, Dame, our friend Kristen came to you and I about a month ago and said, "Oh, guys, I have a surprise." And we're thinking, this could be a lot of things.
Yeah.
Are you a stunt double for Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson? Like, we didn't know what it was. Dame, it turns out on the sly, she studied for, took, and passed the certified financial planning exam. There are now 2 CFPs on our show, and I am officially, on paper, the biggest dummy on the program.
Congratulations, Kristen.
Thank you. As a point of clarity, I cannot use the letters yet. I have to finish some continuing education type stuff, but some employment type stuff. But I did pass the exam, which is a huge feat, and I'm really excited.
You were all very proud of you. And in the midst of everything else going on in your life and your career when you did it, wild stuff.
Yeah, the timing couldn't have been worse. I received a scholarship for women in financial planning, which kind of forced my hand to make this a priority. And so, despite the fact that, again, the timing could not have been worse, so I told no one, literally no one knew. I just sent you guys a paper that said, "Hey, you passed." And you guys were like, "When?" I said, "Today."
Wild stuff. Well, so now just the show is now 2 CFPs and me, and we might change the title. No one knows. But Kristen, are you going to start talking down to me now?
No, I wouldn't do that to you.
Dame, are you going to continue talking down to me?
Of course. There's no reason to change.
All right. Hey, let's get after let's start the show, start the radio segments. Special guest. When we add people to the live stream, there's a reason for it. So an old friend of mine is going to join us and talk about some major changes in the real estate industry. Do we have other segments for the show, or do you just want to figure it out later? Dame, we have the net worth thing, and do we have another one?
We may need to be nimble with that third segment.
To tap dance, if you will.
Oh, that's my specialty. All right. And then we may have some news about our actual company later in the show that we can share because it's public now. So is that interesting? Do people care?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
My dad called me and said, "What is it?" once he saw the news. So, I mean, he cared, but didn't really understand it. But not a lot of people do.
Well, you didn't even tell your own father what was going on behind the scenes?
I don't. What's it matter?
My dad still doesn't know I passed the CFP exam.
See?
To be fair.
Huh. All right, let's add our friend Jimmy to the stage. Jimmy Doolin. Hello, Jimmy.
Hello.
Jimmy Doolin, we are going to go to the segment here in just a moment, but for our live stream and podcast audience, Jimmy Doolin's a realtor. Jimmy, I feel like I've known you forever. Does it feel that way? Is it that tedious being friends with me?
It does feel like it's been a while. And the good news for you is I'm also not a CFP, so we're not 50-50.
But I feel like you've got a ton of like real estate designations to do. Are there real estate designations in that world?
Oh, there is alphabet soup in our world.
I never feel like people do it though. In our industry, it's so obnoxious. It's just like, my name is Peter Dunn, blah, 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 blah. In yours, I never see it.
They're plentiful.
Well, maybe your equivalent's the glamour shots. You know,
That could be the case.
All right. So Jimmy, we're going to start the radio show here in a second. You and I set this up via text. So just so you know, and for some reason, if the podcast and live stream people don't know, our flagship station is 93 WIBC. This will air Sunday at 4 p.m. And then we have a bunch of affiliates all around the state through Network Indiana that airs all over the state at various times. And this is a podcast and a live stream as well. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And that's all the information I'm going to give you. And we'll just figure it out because we're old pros here. And we're going to start the show in 3, 2, 1. This week on the Pete the Planner Show, we answer your money questions. Here's how the show works. You email us, askpete@petetheplanner.com. That's askpete@petetheplanner.com. And we answer your questions. Sometimes we don't answer your questions. We have our own topics. And by we, I mean Kristen Elanius. Hello.
Hello.
Damian Dunn. Hello.
Good day.
No relation. And joining us to talk about a massive change in the real estate industry is my old friend, Jimmy Doolin, team lead at Clubhouse RE. Jimmy, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Jimmy, I've been doing this for, I feel like you've been on some formation of the show at some point in the last 15 years. Is this true?
It is true.
Okay, good. Aren't you glad that it meant so much to me when we did it that I kind of didn't remember? Isn't that lovely?
It is. That tells me I made an impression.
Yeah, well, that's the sort of fella I am. Jimmy, so there was, okay, I'm going to give you what I think happened, correct me, and then I got to hear what the impact here. So there was a lawsuit, I believe, a class action lawsuit saying that there was unfair business practices or some level of collusion within the real estate industry that price fixed commission rates to a certain level, and it was unfair. And now, starting August 17th, I believe, there are all new set of rules as to what commission rates are and how you negotiate them. How close was I just now to reality?
Pretty close. The start date for Indiana was July 1st, though. So the lawsuit started August 17th, but Indiana passed it into law. And as a result of making it a law in the state of Indiana for buyer representation, that law took effect in July 1st. And they did that. I think it was actually, well, obviously there's more consequences to laws than there are to rules. So there's that aspect. But the other piece is it leveled the playing field. You've got, what people don't know is you have realtors that have subscribed to the Code of Ethics and the National Association of Realtors, and you have licensed salespeople who have not. NAR, that lawsuit and that settlement only applied to realtors. So by making it law, it leveled the playing field. Both parties have to practice real estate the same way.
And so the way I guess I perceived how all this went down is, was there like a standard 5 or 6% commission rate that was split equally between the seller's agent and the buyer's agent? Is that sort of the precipice of all this?
You sure you don't work for the real estate commission and you're not trying to get me in trouble? There is no standard. That is the basis of this entire discussion. There's no standard.
Okay, so what the public was saying there was a standard, but there really wasn't a standard.
So I'm sure that there was a public perception. It would seem fair that there could have been a public perception, but where the challenge lied is that the seller negotiated a fee with the listing agent. So you as the seller paid me. I as the listing agent paid the other broker. So I offered a part of what you paid me to the buyer's agent. What we did is now say those two transactions are separate and distinct. The buyer will hire their representation and agree to whatever fee they agree to pay their buyer's agent, and the seller will hire their agent and agree to pay them whatever they're going to offer.
So to me, Kristen, I'm watching your face, which is always a good comment to make on radio, a visual reference. But Jimmy, I'm watching Kristen's face, and it's saying to me, okay, so how is a buyer supposed to pay their agent, like out of pocket, or does it somehow come from a commission within the sale? Is it a pass through? Like, how do you actually pay a buyer's agent?
So in the past, what we discussed, it was real simple, right? The listing agent offered a fee, and that's what I received. Now, if Kristen and I go out and look at homes, that fee could be whatever Kristen and I agree on. So it could be, yes, she pays me. It could be well, first of all, she's going to agree because I can't show her the home without a contractual obligation. So we have to have a start date, an end date, and a compensation and a scope of services, right? So once we have that established, now Kristen and I go out and look at homes. But just because she agreed to pay me two bushel apples, if I go out and show her homes and we find a home and she likes it, she can then ask me as her agent to ask the seller to compensate me the 2 bushel apples that we agreed to.
What sort of obligation does the seller, if I'm on the seller and Kristen comes to me and say, hey, pay my person these bushel of apples, as a seller, am I just like, hey, bugger off, who cares? Like, what do I do?
So it all becomes part of it becomes a piece of the total plan for you to sell your property, right? Are the rest of the terms good, and therefore the bushel apples still fall within your comfort zone? Or do the bushel of apples take you out of your comfort zone? So some sellers are going to say yes, some sellers are going to say no. If the seller says yes, then there is a seller compensation to the buyer's agent of those 2 bushel apples. If the seller says no, then Kristen now owes me 2 bushel apples when she closes on her transaction.
All right, so Dame, this is 50 days in, and Dame, you and I have been in industries for so long that the first 50 days of any new law or regulation can be pretty choppy. Jimmy, how's the first 50 days gone with all of this?
Well, it's rough. I mean, most of my time running a large organization is now spent on making sure that we don't have any violations or any breaks in the system. Because one of the things you have to realize is that if Kristen and I don't document our relationship in that contract, if I show Kristen a home, it doesn't matter what Kristen's intentions are, I can't be paid.
So I'm trying to hack this if I'm a real estate agent right now. And by the way, is there a distinction with this or not between a real estate agent and a realtor, or is that not a thing?
There's always been a distinction. It's just
right.
A difficult marketing message, right? I mean, people use the word realtor generically, just like you might, your brand of Kleenex or there you go, Kleenex. I didn't even say tissue. So they use it as generically as that. So, but there has always been a licensed salesperson and a licensed practitioner or whatever, and a licensed realtor.
Yeah. So if I'm one of those people, I'm like, all right, I'm only representing sellers. Like that's where my head goes. Or is anyone doing that, or what am I missing in that?
So in a balanced market, that maybe that model would be could be pretty successful. But we've been at a deficit of properties in listing inventory in the United States for quite some time now. So ever since 2008, we have watched the reduction of inventory for a myriad of reasons, but none less than your guys' world, which is the hedge funds and everything else have bought up real estate and they don't sell.
So once it's balanced again, my idea might work. But right now, are people in the real estate industry finding these days to be fruitful? Is it a tough market because you got to go attract buyers? Like, what is it to be in the real estate business right now?
Well, so right now, 2024, we will in the United States sell somewhere between 3.9 and 4 million homes. 2022, we sold 7 million. So we're off 40% year over year, or in the last 2 years, excuse me. So yeah, our market is down. Our inventory is down. Our rates are high. We're affected by the economy, no different than, grocery stores that are under attack right now. So it's, we have the same challenges of any other business with respect to the economic model. add now this and the confusion associated with this, and yeah, it's a difficult time. And they haven't happened yet, but you had multiple states suing the National Association of Realtors to potentially defect, which is a whole nother conversation.
Let's pick that up. Can you stick around for another segment?
Sure.
All right, we'll do that next, right here on the Pete the Planner Show. I'm Pete the Planner. All right, so you're good for like another 10 minutes?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. We're getting questions in the chat. I have some more questions. Dame and Kristen, feel free to jump in at any point in time as well. I'm learning a lot. I didn't know. I didn't know it kind of sort of went down this way.
There is an expectation of sweeping losses in the industry from an agent and broker perspective, because the MLSs are now empowered to fine us. And we're talking about substantial fines. So, I mean, in 10 minutes, I didn't realize how hard it would be to get you a lot of facts in 10 minutes. It really compressed. So
as we go back here, Kristen, Dave, do you guys have any questions that you want to ask?
I have one.
All right. Dame, why don't I'll come. Kristen, did you say yes to?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Kristen's looking at homes and stuff. So
I'm literally, yes, I'm actively looking at houses.
Jimmy, in pre-show, she gets an alert on her phone for a home that matches her criteria. And so now I don't know. Kristen, are you freaking out right now with this conversation?
Yes and no. It's just frustrating because the type of home that I'm looking for, like this house will be under contract Monday. Like,
have you signed a contract with an agent?
Mm-mm.
Do you have an agent you're working with?
Yes.
Call them and tell them you need to sign your contract, because otherwise, if they walk you through the door and don't have that contract, when they're going to get their commission, but then their broker is obligated to return it to the party that issued it if they didn't have a contract signed with you prior to walking through the door, or they're breaking the law.
Oh, it's so weird.
I have so many questions.
Great. Hey, guess what? We have a radio show and can I answer them on the air? All right. Okay, so let's go back to the air. Jimmy's got a meeting he's got to get to after this. So sorry, Jeremiah. And we're on in 3, 2, 1. Back on the Pete the Planner Show. Every once in a while, I'll take a particular subset of the financial industry, which I actually consider the real estate industry to be part of the financial industry because it's the biggest purchase you will ever make in your financial life. And so I got the expert I go to with these sorts of questions. Jimmy Doolin, team lead at Clubhouse RE, joined us talking about the changes that went into effect in Indiana July 1st, and nationwide, they're still sort of trickling their way out. Jimmy, this change is in relation to a buyer's agent's how they get their commission from the buyer. Somewhat close. Can we just agree that was okay so we can ask more questions?
It's more than that, but sure.
Of course it is.
It's not just the commission, it's the relationship, it's how that relationship evolves, it's what that relationship means, but we can shrink it to the commission, which is the part that applies to the agent, not to necessarily as much to the buyer.
Let's go to the part of the show where the smart people ask questions, and we'll start with Dame. Dame, go ahead.
Jimmy, I know we kind of joked in the first segment about using a couple bushels of apples to pay for services, but I'm curious, do you think that there will ever be a significant movement away from a percentage into a flat fee for a service instead of the way it's been traditionally done?
100%. So what this did is open the door to any type of compensation. So what you now have is a buyer's agent who needs to sit down and have a consultation with a buyer and explain their value proposition to this transaction, and then explain how they would like to be compensated. And that's going to foster every type of business model.
So a big part of this is the argument for the regulation or the law is to stoke more competition, is it not?
I don't think it was as much to stoke competition as it was to make sure that all parties involved in the transaction had choices and consciously made those choices.
So this only works if people choose to follow the laws, because like every big regulation change, there's people out there trying to circumvent the laws, and then they have an unfair advantage. From what you've seen in the last 50 days of this being part of it, are people at least in a good intention trying to follow the new laws, or are people spending more time figuring out how to circumvent them?
There's not going to be any circumventing this. You're going to follow this, or you're not going to be compensated. You're going to be fined, or you're going to have your license suspended. This is not a negotiable. If you're spending time trying to figure out a way around this, you might as well move industries.
Kristen, you had a question or
I
five?
do.
Yeah.
I just one, and it's mostly I'm curious about your opinion, Jimmy, because something that I've struggled with as someone who has purchased and sold a couple of homes is I signed this agreement to pay a realtor, an agent, a specific percentage, but neither of us has any of an idea how much work this person's actually going to have to put in. And I mean that on both sides of it. This person could have to hustle to get this home sold, and I might not feel like they were adequately compensated for all the work they put in. Or on the flip side, in a transaction I was recently a part of, the deal was done so quick. I was like, I can't believe that there was 5% commission attached to this. So my question, I guess, for you is your opinion on, is there a more perfect structure that could, or a more ideal structure that could come out of all of this?
Well, so I don't want to put any of us in harm's way, especially me with the license for real estate. I would just tell you that this opens the door for what you as the buyer or seller and the agent that you hire, the two of you, it opens the door for you to come up with that compensation plan that you both feel comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
And it eliminates the notion that it has to be done this way. So you and I could come up with an hourly rate. We could have fee for service. I could say, hey, here's the 40 things I can do. Here's the cost of each one. Which ones do you want me to do? So you could give me your Rolex as a trade for my services. We have to come up with a start, an end, compensation, and a scope of services. Mm-hmm. And what that looks like across the board is wide open.
Based on what you just said and some of the things we talked about during the break, which is always good to tell the radio audience that they don't get the good stuff. It happens during the break. Jimmy, I got to think, if a buyer who's about to go start looking at houses doesn't come to an agreement with a buyer's agent, and then all these hot properties start going, they're behind the game, because once you've contracted, then you're actually able to execute on a deal. It is what I'm hearing. Hey, if you're going to go start looking at homes, you better get a buyer's agent's agreement in place right now. Is that what I'm hearing?
I would absolutely agree with that statement, because if not, then if an agent walks you through the door, over the threshold, we always say, if they walk you through the threshold into a home and show it to you, they cannot receive compensation if they didn't have a pre-agreement with you. So if their contract post dates walking you through the threshold, then they cannot receive compensation. The only variable to that is they deem an open house to not be a showing. So you may see more open houses, which would give buyers the opportunity. But you remember the days when you picked up the phone and you just happened to see like a house come up and you've always been curious about it? You now have to sign a contract to solve that curiosity. It could be a single property contract, but it is nevertheless a contract, because if by any wild imagination you just decided, yep, we're going to buy it, I can't receive compensation unless you sign that contract before I walked you over the threshold.
Kristen or Dame, do you guys have? I have more questions, but I've been taking them all. Dame, no, you're good. Kristen,
go ahead.
All right. So, and Jimmy, I don't want this to be a dangerous question for you. In my head, I'm thinking, okay, the larger real estate companies that have been at this for a while, that have a lot of infrastructure, they're going to be able to better potentially navigate what's going on. But then I go to this thing of, they're going to have this standard structure that they want their buyers agents to use. But then what you said was, it's so individually negotiated that, is there actually going to be a standard, or is it impossible to standardize that now?
companies can have policies.
Ah,
Industry cannot have that would be price fixing. So if I have a real estate company that I own, I can establish as the principal broker of that firm a company policy. And we have companies locally here who have strict, have policies that they adhere to. But as an industry, we can't come together, which is why I used apples, because I can't, if we were all four in the same company and having a conversation, we could talk about our company policy, but we couldn't talk about the industry and what it should be.
what happens when a transaction takes place, it closes, and a buyer can't pay or doesn't pay the buyer's agent whatever they've agreed to? Are we now into this world of there's going to be a lot more small claims lawsuits, or there's going to be there gets a lien put on the house, or does that have to get paid for the deal to close?
Yes, and yes. I mean, Pete, we don't truthfully know. I've had, my first notion was to pick up the phone and call some of my mortgage guys and say, you guys in your industry, is this going to become an obligation that counts in the debt to income ratio for the potential buyer?
And we got about 30 seconds, so keep going. I'm going to let you finish, but keep going.
So some say yes, some say no. I believe that you're going to have all of those experiences. I think that I've told agents, don't be surprised if you've got installment loans for your broker fee coming down the pike.
All right. Preach it, Jimmy. Gotta hit the break. Jimmy Doolin, team leader, Clubhouse RE. Thank you for helping us understand what is incredibly complicated. More next, right here on the Pete the Planner Show. Man, we could have done an entire episode on this because there's a lot here. Jimmy, do you feel like now we are in the break we have a lot more podcast listeners than radio listeners. Is there anything you can say whatever you want now if you want to get something else out that I feel like if you feel cut off?
No, it's just wide open, and there's going to be installment loans. There's going to be, there's going to be bartering. There's going to be lawsuits, credit card payments. Some lenders are saying that if they've signed a contract, they're going to request a copy of the contract, which is then you're going to show the financial obligation. And if the seller doesn't agree to satisfy that obligation for the buyer, then it'll be counted against the buyer and their qualifications. Some say it won't because they don't owe it until they close, so those two happen simultaneously. So, Pete, we don't truthfully know. And like I said, there are states suing to be removed from so most states are just under the NAR settlement, which is the 17th that you were talking about. Mm-hmm. We happen to be a state that has passed a law. So there's some states that are suing to leave that so they don't have to follow that code of ethics, because if they're no longer a NAR member, they don't have to follow the policy unless it's a state law like Indiana. So, and then the MLSs are talking about fines. So there's talk about reduction in agents, reduction in brokers, probably more so on the reduction of broker than agent, because how many fines can a small broker who's got, say, 20 agents, how many $5,000 fines and suspensions can they withstand before they have to close their doors?
Yeah, one of our financial experts here at Your Money Line asks, would those installment loans be taken into consideration in debt to income ratios, do you think?
And some lenders tell me yes, and some lenders say no, because it would have been established at the time of closing. So they didn't have it pre-closing. They only got it. So, I mean, it's underwriter by underwriter. It's experience by experience. We're going to go through, and then there's all the additional lawsuits. They are watching for people to mess up. The other thing is that if Kristen, in our example earlier, if I took you out and showed you a house and I didn't have a contract with you, and the commission came in, as an agent, once I turn that commission into my broker's required to verify that my buyer agency contract date was before the date that I showed it to you. And if it wasn't before the date I showed it to you, as a broker, I'm required to send that money back to the party who gave it to me.
So I get my apples back.
Correct. If it was you at the buyer and you paid it, I returned the apples to you because my agent didn't have the documentation in place prior to walking you over the threshold.
That'll force compliance.
How do you like-
So when
yeah.
you talk about all the moving parts, it's insane.
I couldn't. Dave and I were fighting each other to say, "How do you like them
Dad
apples?"
joke.
Sorry.
Jimmy, what percentage of realtors do you think are going to exit the industry because this is just going to be too much?
Well, look, it always happens to those that were already contemplating retirement, right? You're still going to have young people come in. We have a third come in every year and a third go out every year, right? Every 3 years, we have a full turnover of our industry of 1.4 million roughly. So we're going to lose some. I think what you're more likely to see than anything, Pete, is a consolidation of brokerages, because if I'm a small broker with 20 agents and I get 2 or 3 of these fines, $2,500 to the agent, $5,000 to the brokerage, and I only get 5-10% off the top of each agent's deal, it's going to take a lot of those deals to make up for a fine. So what we may see is more agents moving to larger companies. I think that's more likely than necessarily just gone.
All right, Kristen, last question.
Yes,
we got to
one
let this
more,
poor
I
man
swear.
go.
So in the world that the 3 of us have played in, compliance is just this. Pete, right? Your expression is compliance plays such a large role. What role did a compliance department, if any, play before? And now, will there be more of that? Like, is there going to be a compliance department?
Great question.
In an office? Like, is it that far?
Gosh, I don't know. I would tell you this: prior to this, it was adherence to our code of ethics and obviously the laws that govern, which, for the most part, any agent could do with a decent sense of common sense, right? With a decent amount of common sense. It wasn't complicated. This is the first time that we're going to complicate it and expect people to, figure it out, navigate it. I mean, it's scary. You can still pick up the phone and call some agents and have them go, "Huh? Really? Didn't know that."
I sense that. I sense that.
How can you be this close to losing your license and being fined and breaking the law and not know about it? Like, ignorance is not going to be your excuse any longer, because it's not a code of ethics where you get a slap on the wrist.
Jimmy, what I'd love to do 6-9 months down the road, can we have you back and just see like how it's going? Can we do
Sure,
that?
happy to.
My gut tells me interest rates will be lower then, so the Wild West that you just described could be even wilder as the market gets hotter somehow. Is that your gut feeling too?
Well, the most recent information that I've seen is probably a fairly consistent 25 with a 24. And so maybe towards the end of 25, seeing some notable changes, but more 26 being, I mean, look, when it goes down in real estate, it always comes back. So we know there's a booming market at some point in time. When does it start? I don't know, but most of what I've read and heard from economists and real estate related is more of a 26 than a 25, but maybe late 25.
Great.
But I'm happy to come back and talk about it, tell you where we are and what it looks like.
We're in. We'll take
Show
it.
you some of my battle scars.
Yeah. Well, or just that beautiful hair of yours. All right, Jimmy, have a good day. Go sell some houses or go sign some contracts with oh my God, I've got anxiety, secondhand anxiety right now for you. So thanks, Jimmy. I'll talk to you later.
You got it. Bye.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Fascinating.
Fascinating. I was so much more than I thought.
You guys, if I would have come under contract for that house last week, I would have gotten my apples back.
That's what I was saying. Is that he was like, "Go rush out and have a contract signed." I was
Why?
Like, for whose benefit?
I would have gotten my apples back.
So wait, Kristen, are you saying you're going to try to?
I'm not going to try to do that. I really like the person I'm working with, but I'm just saying.
But they don't know. I mean, they should know that. and
But
should insist.
to his point, I think it's bad intel because I am friends with her on socials and they're sharing about this. What is the 19th or whatever deadline?
Yeah.
They're not sharing the Indiana specific stuff. Her and like her affiliate. Yeah. So to his point, like I don't think it's like that's been a lot of what I've seen on social media is like the national implications, not the Indiana specific ones.
Doesn't sound like she knows Applejack. No,
That's good. I liked it.
it seems a little accusatory.
I liked it.
It's good hair though, right, Dame?
Man, if you could have a full head of hair and you had to wear it like that, would you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Here's the thing about we all have these people in our life. I don't know how long I've known Jimmy, but he's one of those people like as a working adult in Central Indiana, I feel like I've literally known him for 24 years. And maybe I have, maybe I haven't. I don't know. I just don't remember not knowing him.
It's funny. You're also bad at time.
I am. Oh gosh. Okay. So we do have a show. We have 2 more segments. Real quick. The IBJ 20 under 20 list came, they have these lists. 20 under 20 list came out this week. You know how I know I'm old? I don't know anybody on the list. Literally no one.
It was 20 under 20.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
Oh, not 20 under 20, 20 in their 20s.
Okay,
Sorry, not
It's like,
20 under
holy
20.
smokes.
Oh, not what I heard.
There was this
Yeah.
13-year-old boy that I just didn't know as well as I had thought. No, there was 20 in their 20s.
You're not
Sorry.
making it better.
I didn't know anyone. They're all like named like Gen Z name, like Taylor and Braxton, I think. Maybe. I don't know. Andy says this was a helpful first part of the show.
I'm glad it because it probably didn't feature us. That's probably why it was so helpful.
Honestly.
Okay, let's do the thing. We got to do some things. Then maybe after between the break, we'll say what we did here this week. I don't think it's so hard to explain. I don't really want to explain it, so I'll just say it. And if people get it, they get it. If they don't, they don't.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
super helpful
Because we care.
because
He
we
gives
care. All right, 3, 2, 1. Back on the Pete the Planner show. That was fascinating.
Wow.
Kristen, I feel like that may have changed the course of your day.
It definitely changed the course of my day. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So off the air, the radio folk, Jimmy shared with us that the 25 market outlook for real estate, residential real estate looks like it'll likely be like 24. 25 will be like 24, and 26 is where you could see a massive inflection point. Damon, did I represent that fairly?
Yeah, I think so. I'm just thinking about the current news that we're hearing about different proposals coming out of different presidential camps with Vice President Harris saying that she'd like to see 3 million homes constructed in a certain period of time. I mean, how is that going to impact some of these? And I mean, there's just layers of complexity on this, and I don't know how it's going to play out.
So, Kristen, I just saw right before the show, part of Vice President Harris's economic plan is that she wants a $25,000 first-time homebuyer credit. Those have been around in the past, back when Dame and I were when we were younger. I think that leads to a hotter and hotter market. Like a lot of these solutions lead to hotter and hotter markets, do they not?
Perhaps, but how does a home buyer's credit, when does said buyer receive this credit? When they file their taxes?
I would
Like
assume
the
it's on the
tax
taxes.
credit?
Yeah, I would assume it's on the
So-
taxes.
How does that help a first-time home buyer who's having trouble potentially, like, let's say, affording a down payment, or who has credit that's keeping it's the barrier to them buying a home? How does a tax credit help them?
Damon, unless you have an amazing answer, I have no idea. So I don't really want to speculate. Do you know?
No, there's a comment that says it helps pay the buyer fees or offset the buyer fees. I mean, if that's the answer, that's interesting. But I don't know for sure.
Dame, earlier this week, as you and I were discussing our lives with each other, which oddly enough, we were talking about personal finance. So you said, hey, do you consider the money you have in your kids' 529
Mm-hmm.
plans as part of your net worth? And I said, no. And then,
Audible gasp. Wow.
whoa. So then it begs the question of what do you consider as part of your net worth, your wet nurse?
Yeah.
That's a wet nurse, different than a wet nurse, different than net worth.
Mhm.
Kristen, let's go through what we include in our net worth and what we do not. First, Dame, do you consider a 529 plan part of your net worth?
Nope, I haven't.
What?
Okay. Kristen, give us your perspective.
Why wouldn't you list an asset on your net worth statement?
See, I think this is, I am not going to be super consistent on this. I will readily admit that up front. But in my mind, I've already earmarked those, and it's a sinking fund essentially for future expense. I understand, but it's just money that I am not going to be using for anything other than college education, and so it does not count for my benefit. And I understand if you were looking at network in the purely strictest sense of the form, it absolutely should count towards my net worth.
Kristen's going to explode.
But it doesn't.
Damn, I'm really upset.
Okay, before in Kristen, I want to hear you get upset because it makes for better radio. But there's a couple quick things that need to be said here. Number one, I 100% agree with Dame. I do it the same way. And number two, you have recently passed the certified financial planner exam. Go.
Yeah. Okay, so my question is, how would that be any different? It's the lack of consistency for me, because how is that any different from if, Damien, you were going to start a business selling tree stumps as campfire stools for people to put in their homes, and you needed like equipment money or you needed to build a new barn? If you had that money to the side, it's currently on your net worth statement. It's just not earmarked for anything.
Part of my argument here is I'm not generally transferring assets. I'm transferring earned income in the moment to those goals. And so it doesn't feel like a balance sheet transfer. So therefore, I don't consider it as part of my net worth.
I almost don't even view it as my money at this point.
Okay, well, this begs a completely different question that David in the live stream just made note of. He says if they don't spend on college, it ends up being theirs anyway. So basically a gift given. So Dame, I put to you right here, right now, you've got money saved in 529s for the Aquadons. Are you just stroking a check and saying, hey, Papa John's, baby, enjoy college? Or are you buying that hair plug system that you've been dreaming of?
That's a great question. I would have been even more tempting if it would have been car shopping, as we discussed the other day as well. But I don't know. I mean, if that money, is this what we're asking? If that money somehow doesn't need to be used, is that where we're headed with this?
Yeah, like so you can. I mean, go ahead, hit the technical stuff real quick. What you can do and blah blah blah.
Yeah, I mean, there's any number of options. Frankly, it can obviously be used to pay for college and qualified expenses. A new provision, January 1st this year, up to $35,000 can be put towards a Roth IRA for the beneficiary of the account. Earned income. There's other rules that go along with it. You can absolutely take the money back out of the 529 and put it in your pocket, but you will pay tax and penalty on the growth of those dollars as well. So it's possible that you could end up with the money, your kids could end up with the money, the college could end up with the money, any number of folks could end up with the cash. But if we're talking about situation where I end up with the money, I don't know, maybe I just name a different beneficiary and benefit my grandkids down the road too. I don't know.
Kristen, if your dogs went to doggy college, what would you do?
So let me back up, and I'm struggling with this logic, gentlemen. So you put your 401k on the asset side of your net worth sheet, huh?
That's
You're
my
gonna
money. I'm going to use.
You're going to spend it. It's
on
already
me.
earmarked.
On me. That money that's in the 529s is going for my kids or somebody else's use. It's not my. Technically, it's my money. I own the account, but it's not for my benefit.
I feel like if you guys had foam swords right now, you'd be striking each
Beating
other.
the snot out of each other.
Kristen, I hear you. I hear you. Can I have a thing that's going to make this even worse, or do you want to keep going on yours?
No, go ahead. Make it worse.
I don't consider transportation cars anywhere on my net worth statement, whether there's debt or it's an asset. I don't consider them at all. How about you,
I know.
Kristen?
And you and I have big beef with that because
She's beefing with everyone. She
we
gets a CFP, and all of a sudden, I'm
everything.
officially the dummy.
that was long before my CFP. you CFP exam pass. And that was long before that because you and I beefed about that in like 2020. I scheduled a specific meeting to be like, I think this is silly. And you were like, well, this is how I do it. So the reason, and I get it because like I do list some personal assets that you two probably wouldn't list on my balance sheet. But I put really like, I'm always looking at their value. I'm always looking at them being contingencies. Like I would sell my car if I got into a position where I needed that cash. So like I want to know what those potential realities are.
So what's on your balance sheet that you think we would disagree with?
My car for starters.
Okay.
The camper is on it.
You have the camper on your balance sheet.
Absolutely. I know what it's worth. I have a pretty good idea of how long it would take to sell it. It's like contingency plan letter J, but I want to know.
Dane, what's the dumbest thing on your balance sheet?
Oh man, I mean, it's really clean. It's very vanilla. I don't know if I've got anything dumb on my balance sheet.
This is a fascinating conversation. You could have gone 2 segments on this. So anyway, just be consistent. Oh, I guess I never answered. Like if my kids A, don't go to college, or B, get a scholarship, what do I do with their 529 money?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I can't answer this unless I ask Mrs. Planner.
That's safe.
Yeah, I
That's
want to ask
smart.
Mrs. Planner.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's phone a friend. You want to call her live on the air in the next segment?
No.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's do this. We'll figure that out. Coming up after the break, biggest waste of money of the week in the news on Pete the Planner. She would kill me. Do you want to do it?
Well, yes.
All right, let's do it.
What would she do? I mean, that's the better question is what would she do?
Let's call her on my speakerphone.
Oh my. This feels
Do you want to mute as she answers the phone?
No, I'm just gonna call her on speakerphone and see if this is a good idea.
Oh, Mrs. Planner.
Should I do it?
You should not do this.
Okay. Let's do it.
If Ben is watching, he's cringing.
Yeah, this is on LinkedIn.
I'm so uncomfortable.
She sent you a voicemail.
Not yet.
Okay.
Her government name.
Oh. Well, here's the thing. I know she doesn't watch the show, so she's not screening.
She'll
me.
never know. Yeah.
She'll never know.
She'll never
Here's
know.
the thing. If you want to be part of Fight Club, you can't talk about Fight Club. So no one tell her what just happened.
Deal.
Okay.
You signed a contract as you cross the threshold.
Yes. My mind is going to be racing about loopholes and whatever with this real estate thing all weekend long.
Oh yeah.
Does
you're
this
not
all apply to-
supposed lie about the date? You show me the house and then you put the wrong date on it. I didn't know any better as the buyer. I know that like as a professional, you're going to say people aren't doing that, but they're doing that.
Dame, let's step in a hole real quick.
Mm-hmm.
This is about to go like the insurance industry. You know, because the insurance industry, there's a lot of people out there doing things that they don't know aren't right.
Mm-hmm.
And then that becomes an excuse. And then
Yeah, this is going to get really ugly, especially in, I don't know. I mean, I was going to say more rural areas, but even in big cities, where there's people are just doing their thing and out there hustling the way they've always done it. I mean, it's going to be interesting.
Kristen, I feel like, Dane, we've just ruined her day.
I'm so worked up between this net worth thing and
Okay.
real estate thing.
Well, let me calm you down with the biggest waste of money of the week.
Calm
Okay.
down.
Calm down.
I don't. I don't think he said. I don't think he told you to calm down. He said, "Let me try to calm you down."
Regularly, both of you tell me to calm down.
But
I
in
do
jest.
not.
I mean, but it's in jest. It's not like you're being shrill. Stop yapping. No one.
I think you've
Did-
actually.
Did you guys see? I'm gonna have to go vague on the details because I don't know them. There's a former NBA basketball player that's I think running for some governmental seat, I believe in Minnesota. During an interview with Steve Bannon this week, which he said, and I watched it, and I don't think it's AI fake. He said, the reality is women are too mouthy today. And I watched it. I didn't know what to do next.
Yikes! You got to know your audience.
Well, it was on Steve Bannon's podcast. I think he knows his audience.
Yikes!
Ooh. Hey. And Steve Bannon, I wasn't listening to Steve Bannon's podcast. I saw a news story about it. But Steve Bannon hit him with a good for you for saying that. Or thanks for speaking the truth.
That was a choice.
It's crazy. What has happened? Okay, let's do it in 3, 2, 1. This week's biggest waste of money of the week, right here on the Pete the Planner Show, is Figure. It's the first of its kind AI robotics company bringing a general purpose humanoid to life. That's right. It is a life-size robot, if you are in fact Tom Cruise. It's 5'6". It's got a payload of 20 kilograms. Dame, what does that mean?
A couple stone, I think. I don't know.
It weighs 70 kilograms. It has a 5-hour runtime. Its speed is 1.2 meters per second, and it is electric. It is designed to basically, from the Jetsons, Rosie the robot, she's it's meant to do that, and it's a humanoid, so it's got arms and legs, and it looks like it was sent to kill you.
Yeah.
I don't actually know the price of this, but I can tell you no matter what it is, it's a waste of money because you're signing your own death warrant. Kristen, if you had all the money in the world, would you buy a humanoid to live with you?
Absolutely not.
What percentage chance would you do it? Like even consider? Are you 0% no?
I feel like curiosity might get the best of me if I had a lot of money. So like maybe like 5%. Never say never.
Dave, do you think the AI robot will have the curiosity of what it's like to kill its owner? What do you think, Dave?
That image on the screen right now, which is horrible for radio, but with it like clenching its fist and rolling its fingers, is absolutely terrifying.
You would not own this, but if you did, would you keep it in your studio barn there?
I would probably program it to patrol the perimeter of my property.
Stop.
Parole. I love that you have a perimeter of your property. I live on a postage stamp, so the perimeter is in fact the internal mass of the property. Anyway, this is a big waste of money. Dame, what's in the news this week?
About 2.9 billion people may have had their personal information hacked, new proposed class action lawsuit alleges. If true, it suggests that all Americans, because that math checks out, may have had their valuable personal information compromised, including full names, current and past addresses, social security numbers, and information on parents, siblings, and other relatives. The alleged April 2024 breach occurred when a background check company doing business as National Public Data, owned by Jericho Pictures, Inc., failed to properly safeguard information it scraped. And the company provides instant search access to billions of records. Neither of those two companies were available for comment. That's a big shock there. But the breach may not be as far-reaching as the report suggests. For example, if there were multiple records per individual compromised, that could reduce the total number of people affected. If other countries were affected too, which seems likely since it was 2.9 billion people, that could reduce the number of people involved. In addition, much of the information leaked may have already been available elsewhere. That statement is not nearly as comforting as it was probably intended to be. Still, experts say the news of this latest breach should put consumers on high alert.
Kristen, you want to see a fun trick?
Yes.
Dame, are we supposed to expect that the government can keep our information private? I mean, what evidence do we have that the government can do that?
Zero. They are not going to keep your information private because they're probably earning some commission off the sale of it somehow, somewhere.
There it is. I mean, Kristen, at first I was like, he's not taking it.
There.
And then it hooked him in the jaw. What were you going to say?
Damien, is this different than the news that broke this week about how they believe that every social security number was compromised? This is
It's the same story. I'm pretty sure it's the same story, just presented a little differently.
Okay, and then so this is also separate from the letter that I got in the mail that my very specific medical information was accessed as well.
That I don't know. I would assume
one of
they're
those
separate,
letters.
but yeah, I would assume they're separate, but I don't know.
Send me your chart and I'll verify whether it's out there.
Here's the login for my chart. Why?
Yeah, Dame, I'm going to give a comment, and everyone should dismiss it outright and immediately. But I kind of don't care that it's all compromised, because I just assume it's all compromised anyway. So I've frozen my credit. I watch it like I don't care. That's why you should have frozen credit, though. Freezer credit.
100%. Absolutely.
I had people around the office saying, "Hey, can I talk to you about freezing credit?" And so I was doing cases this week here at your Moneyline.
What a
Look at
guy.
you. That was my job.
What a guy. What else is in the news?
Starbucks CEO is getting a venti pay package. New CEO Brian Nichols' pay package is worth up to $116 million in the first year. That includes a signing bonus consisting of $10 million in cash, $75 million in equity, and going forward, his salary will be a paltry $1.6 million with an additional $7.2 million in cash incentives and up to $23 million in equity bonuses. But it wasn't all piles of money and free frappuccinos for life. As part of the sales pitch, Starbucks told Nickel he can work from home, which makes a lot more sense when you consider he lives in Newport Beach, California, and Starbucks is headquartered in a city known for grunge and averages 150 rainy days a year.
Kristen, I get the feeling this is not investment advice. I have the feeling this is going to, from what I've read, send Starbucks stock soaring over the next couple of years because of how successful he was at Chipotle.
Very interesting.
It had an instant hit as soon as it was announced. Starbucks jumped, I think it was like 20%.
Do you think he's going to bring down the price of my brown sugar oat milk shaken espresso?
Oh, that's too many words in a drink. That's how you okay, I bet you're charged $1 a word. So let's go through this. Okay. A what?
Brown sugar oat milk. Is that one word or two?
One.
Shaken espresso.
$5.
Does it cost $5?
I'm pretty sure a grande is $5.95.
There you go. You know why? Because oat milk is sort of right on the edge, so it takes you right up to that $6. Yeah, that's you know what I order? Blonde roast, $2.
It's not $2.
No, that's
$2.95 for a grande, huh?
blonde roast coffee, and so it's implied. So that's where the 95 cents.
Got it.
I've got this all figured out. I've talked to this guy. What's his name? Tim.
Mr. Nickel.
Yeah. What else is in the news?
Well, I just scrolled away. You'll appreciate this one. It was a topic of last week as well. Republican VP nominee J.D. Vance said he absolutely agrees with Trump's assertion that the president should be involved in the Fed's interest rate decisions. At a press conference last week, Trump claimed that he would have a better instinct than Fed officials in determining monetary policy and should at least be consulted, alarming investors and economists for whom the Fed's independence from political considerations is sacrosanct. Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris said she couldn't disagree more strongly with Trump, adding, "I would never interfere with the decisions that the Fed makes. You know what would really help? If the Fed was just ended."
So, James, your solution is to end the Fed as opposed to just absolutely deny a president's input on the Fed.
How about we hedge and it's just audited ruthlessly?
I don't know. Man, who knows? We didn't even spin him up on this when he got going on his own, Kristen.
I saw the story. I had to do it because I knew you would appreciate me being a little bit more emotional.
Kristen, did you see that weird Disney story this week?
There's weird Disney stories every week.
So I mean, look, I'm going to give you the details I know, which is not much. So basically, there was a massive lawsuit based on okay. So someone got hurt or died at the park.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then Disney is trying to have the lawsuit thrown out because in previously the person got a Disney Plus subscription, and as part of the terms of service of that subscription, there was some arbitration clause or something that said you couldn't hold Disney liable for anything. Yet it was a death at a park versus a streaming. Like,
Wild.
do you feel like I captured that well enough?
You
Yes.
did. Yeah.
Did you, when you saw that, did you think that was kind of the worst thing you'd ever seen?
Yeah, it made me really scared about all the terms and conditions I've never read.
Yeah. Dang,
There's-
that doesn't seem fair.
There's absolutely zero way this stands up. The person's going to get their money.
Dame always reads the terms and conditions, I feel.
No, absolutely not.
Who reads
They're-
the terms
they're
and conditions the
unenforceable.
least on this show?
Me.
I'm a
Me.
millennial. I don't read.
Our Gen Z coworker wanted me to do a social media post about so demure, so something today.
Yeah.
She's been spending 2 days trying to talk me into it. And I brought it up to my 15-year-old and she was like, oh, you've got to do it. So I set to do it this morning. I was like, I just can't.
Very cutesy. Very
What is
cute,
it? So demure, so defined, refined?
very
or something?
mindful.
Very mindful. Okay, so anyway, that's it. Sending good vibes are always in the budget. I'm Pete the Planner. This is the Pete the Planner show. I couldn't do it. She was very excited about it.
I
couldn't
don't even know
do
what
it.
you're talking about.
Ellie-
Exactly.
Ellie bet me that you would bring it up on the radio, so she won.
Barely.
She won not
Same.
having social media content.
the bet.
I feel like I get that it would be funny, but I feel like a complete loser.
I feel like it
Dave,
works.
should we explain anything to Dame? Because he looks
No, because this is good. I feel like it works really well in text. Like Slack, their LinkedIn yesterday was demure Slack tips or something like that. I got a tech or an alert or email, maybe some sort of push notification from Pizza Hut about very demure, very mindful. Like it's rampant.
Okay, so do you guys remember when that fashion magazine here locally decided it would be a good idea to put a picture on the cover, and I was me.
Uh-huh.
And I was wearing what I might wear on the weekend, which is like sweats, like athleisure, kind of loud colors.
Mhm.
And on their social media, someone commented, "Look at that old guy trying to look young."
Stop.
Right. And so here's the thing. Is that true? Maybe. Maybe it's true. Maybe I was first of all, I am an old guy. Maybe I was trying to feel young and cool. But that's why I didn't do this so demure, so whatever, because I'm like, it's not for me.
So here's the thing, Pete, is we continue to age gracefully.
What, you're aging gracefully. I'm looking worse by the minute.
It's very reasonable that when we're in our 60s, we will see our friends wearing hats backwards occasionally.
Okay.
That's going to be weird, isn't it?
Do you feel like, okay, yeah,
Like,
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Like,
with you.
is that just a subset of the overall fashion thing? Or, I mean, I stolen to me. Very nice.
Jameson comes into the show late and just drops "stolen demure" into the comments, and I'm officially wanting to do it now. Jameson, that's so great.
I just don't know. I mean, because Chris and I had a very similar conversation to this. Nobody knows how long ago. It was like, I feel like I don't dress my age. Do you remember this conversation?
You feel like you dress older than your age or younger than your age?
It depends on I'm like, is jeans and a t-shirt like appropriate for a nearly 50-year-old man?
Oh man, I told Sarah the other, Mrs.
Yeah.
Planner, I was like, I'm about 50. Speaking of, let's blend this story with the news that I was going to share today.
Oh yeah.
So our company, Your Moneyline, we raised a Series A, which is a round of investments. We raised $4.5 million to invest our company, to grow it, and to continue to do these sorts of things. So my dad posts about it on Facebook. All right. I actually want to pull it up because I want to read what happened next. I'm not going to put it on the screen because I don't really want to put my dad's Facebook on the screen.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So my dad posts about it, and the headline says, Indianapolis-based financial wellness firm lands $4.5 million venture investment. And then one of my dad's friends says, "You got to be proud of your little bro," because there's a picture of me, and this guy just assumed that the person in the picture looks so old that it's my 70-some-year-old father's brother, not his offspring.
Which, I mean, plays right in line with the comments that we've received.
Yeah, that I'm your father.
Yes.
So my dad would be your uncle.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Uncle
on
Mike.
my honeymoon, and I've shared this at age 22 years old, and I had hair. The guy working the lazy river said to me and my new bride, "Get in the tube with your daughter." Like he said, "Get in the tube with your daughter." He thought my wife, who was also 22, she was my wife for 48 hours, and I was her father, and I was the same age.
Bummer.
When I'm really 90, how old am I going to look? I'm going to look like the Crypt Keeper from the old HBO show, Tales from the Crypt.
Maybe this is an advantage. Maybe you won't seem like you age at all beyond this point.
Oh.
I do look like my dad, though, older I get. My dad looks like Tim Waltz.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He does. And
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
see that.
so, anyway, Kristen, your day's ruined. Congrats on the certified financial planner. Dame, you're also a certified financial planner. And all I am is a certified financial Peter. Stay getting money.